Hello, I'm Nick Coffey, and you're listening to Ministerium Miskatonic Radio, coming to you live from Ministerium Miskatonic, home of the brave and the twisted. I'm here with you today strictly by and for the grace of Georgia's hot dogs. Yes, listener, this is why I'm here. There's something you need to know about Georgia's hot dogs, and it isn't a good thing either. I need you to know that Georgia's hot dogs have been accused by the FDA and the MCOF that there is in fact something wrong with these hot dogs. Stop eating them. I repeat, stop eating them. It is of the utmost importance that you do not consume any more than you already have, given that they were spiked with opium. I can understand if you're feeling a little uncomfortable about letting them go, but it's for the best. Trust me, listener, don't just throw them away, because then some poor rat or gull might scrounge them up from the dump. Burn them, incinerate them, turn them to a smudge on your chimenea, then forget about them. Now that we have that announcement out of the way, we can carry on with our regular programming. Thank you for your patience, listener. I hope you enjoy the show. Now, there are some things in life that just ain't right, listener. Some things, like breaking the space-time continuum, extracting yourself from your own dimension, pushing books off shelves and creeping everyone out. Those things are just not okay. Don't do them. It just plain isn't nice. In the interest of a fair deal, here's a trade. You stop doing those spooky dimension-hopping hijinks, and I'll read a submission. And it's a good one, too. One of our listeners, one Himmelsie did, has sent a wonderful submission. Here it is, listener. The world began with a hangnail. Trust me, I know these things, and I've seen them before. It was a rather painful one. Anyway, the world began with a hangnail, and on that hangnail there was a man. This man, Pete, had a way of getting under people's skin and pushing up hangnails. He was especially busy during the winter because Unc had a habit of taking summer vacations in snowy climes. These didn't really count as vacations since Pete was continuing his aggravating work there, but what do I know? So Pete pushes this hangnail up, outside edge of the left thumbnail. Painful, annoying. I pestered the thing until I was rid of it. Then, I was left with a slight bleed and impending infection. Well, that's where things get interesting. The infection settled within an hour. Within an hour, the world had formed. There in the dark crevice between my thumbnail and my skin, nestled in my scab. It's funny how these things happen. How you're going about your day and suddenly your focus is pulled to something small because your immune and nervous system really freaks out about it. I bumped my thumb on a stapler at work and was instantly aware of this small world sitting there. It was glowing with verdant life. The whole thing was covered with blues and browns and greens. The sheer inertia of life rocked me in my seat. I knew what had to be done. I had to speak to HR about this. HR knows everything about human life, so this was definitely the right decision. Well, the conversation didn't quite go how I anticipated it would. I feel as though this is becoming a trend. If ever I try to start a psychic business, slap me out of it. So HR says to me, "Himmelsie dear, whatever is that on your thumb?" I hadn't even shut the door yet when they started speaking to me. I told them it was the world. "Oh, that's grand, dear," they says. "Let's have another look at it. Please, step closer." So, being the good employee I am, I stepped closer. And before I knew it, they had already snatched the world from my thumb, and I was there, relieved of the world, fresh as a newborn calf. "Back to work now," they told me. I turned, but a curiosity caught me, a curiosity which flared up bright inside me. "What will you do with it?" I asked. They looked at me, their myriad eyes unblinking. "What will you do with this world? Will you nurture it?" "Dear, this is no longer your concern. You did the right thing. Return to your cubicle and prepare for the evening rest, they said. Again, I turned to leave, but again I was caught up in my curiosity. How did that get on my thumb anyway? Is that normal? Do other people get the world on their thumbs? Yes, this is quite standard. Policy dictates what's going to happen with this world, and we will do it with the greatest punctuality and accuracy. If you're interested, you can read this pamphlet. Goodbye now, they said, and with that they pushed me out of the door with their invisible hands. The pamphlet they had given me had a picture of a world with a face on it, dancing happily in space. It smiled and waved at the sun. In rainbow colors, in an arc across the top, it read, "Returning the world." Along the bottom it said, "Know your part, do your part. All is well." I opened it up to read on, but was met with more images of a dancing world floating through space. In one scene, it strolled arm in arm with Pluto through a field of stars. I took my pamphlet back to my desk and sat down to work. Wary of new hangnails, I put on some lotion before plugging in for the evening rest. In the morning, the power surge woke me. I looked around while unplugged, and in the corner of the office, over by Janet's cubicle, the world. It looked resplendent. I couldn't believe it. HR was doing a bang-up job with the world, and I felt a fool for doubting them. I grabbed my coffee mug and strolled over to get a closer look. "Morning hymns?" Janet rasped. She was an older model and her plug was cracked around the base. I think she had some power drains somewhere in her system. "Hi, Jen. Have you seen this thing?" I asked, and she slowly turned, cracking her neck as she did. "Oh wow, Himmelsie. That's beautiful. Did that come off of you?" She gaped at the world, hovering silent in the shadowy corner. "It's my first one. I'm very excited," I told her before turning back to the world. I set my mug on a nearby filing cabinet and began touching the world. The trees were soft and sand softer. The water whirled around my fingers as I traced them through the seas. Even while looking at it, the world seemed to swell larger and larger in that corner. Soon the ceiling tiles were being pushed out of their frame, and the partition walls behind it were creaking and groaning. HR came fuming down the aisle. "Himmelsie, you have done well. Please return to your desk." Then glancing to the side, "Janet, it is time to unplug and work." Janet shot me a snarky glance, then spun her chair back to face her console. I grabbed my mug and slowly walked away, turning around frequently to see what HR was doing with the world. Slowly, with their invisible hands, they were gathering the clouds, tamping down the winds, smoothing the sands, and quieting the trees. They began turning the world in their hands and shoving tacks into it. When it was peppered with tacks, they spun thread around the tacks to form a sort of net, then pulled the world toward the window. Along the way, the world caused quite a mess. It knocked over consoles, it bumped workers, it turned off printers, and fanned their papers far and wide. Once at the window, HR turned their crank and opened it. Smog rushed in, a thick smoke teasing the workers' ankles. HR tied their fistful of strings to the line outside, then pushed the world out of the window. It didn't float like I expected. All the others on the tethered floated as soon as they could, but the newly tethered Earth sat low on its leash. I wanted to watch. I wanted to cheer the world on, tell it could bob the line, like others. But HR shut the window and turned toward the workers. I noticed then that everyone was staring at the world. "Back to work," HR shouted. That's a lovely contribution. Thank you, Himmelsie. Listener, I'll let you in on a secret. The Earth in this story is in fact Earth 52.100x. It's a good Earth. It never did reach the same heights as the others on the tether, but it's doing its best. And really, what more could we ask for? See you again soon, listener. This is Nick Coffey of Ministerium Miskatonic Radio, reminding you to smile and get your rest. Thank you.